Good morning. This is Stephanie Kitchens at Hightower Stitching, and I'm taking a break from some of my quilting and sewing to work on a home project. It's been so cool. It's been a great idea, a great work time, and our work is in our 1910 Craftsman home. And one of the characteristics of the Craftsman is a lot of woodwork, great woodwork, and also the windows, because the windows let you look out onto the world and see. So neat. And so this is the dining room, and these windows we have finished. And what we did to the windows started from one day I was sitting in the chair crocheting, and I said, oh, it's so cool. And I said, I remember several of those ropes are broken on the pulleys that hold the windows up. This might be a great time to do that. And I'm retired, so wouldn't have to get in a big hurry. And so never a little project, but always a fun project. And so we are on, that was 6 windows that was finished, and we have 4 more for sure in the front and 2 in the back that we can do. The windows by the porch are protected from the sun, so they don't get as much of the sun, and they have stayed really nice under the porch. So now I'm going to move into the living room. So we're going to have a quick little tour through the side of the dining room, because this is where we're working right now. We've got 4 windows. We've started on one on the side, and like I said, how it works is these windows are very heavy. The top is the glass, but then it's got solid wood between the panes and then the frame. And to keep that up, there's a pulley system that has weights at the end, goes through a wheel at the top, and it holds, if the weights are heavy enough, the window will stay all the way at the top, but yet you can pull it down if you wanted it to come down. So I'm going to ease over here and show you a little bit about it, because one of the things is, I call it the window box, but I'm sure it's the weight box, and it's inside the window. Now we've taken out a finishing piece, and then we took out a piece of metal rail that the bottom window travels up. And then when we finally got done with that, we were able to go and take out the piece of wood that's the little door that covers up where the weights are. And I'll turn over here to the side, and there you can see one of the weights hanging in there, and they can be very heavy. We had one set of them that was about 12 pounds, and you can see the rope hanging there where it was knotted at the bottom. So then as the window goes up or down, the weights, well, that's the wrong weight, that's the other one, they will go up and down. And as you look to the top, you can see that little cord up there. Well, that was a rope that seemed to be in pretty good shape. So we just cut it really close to the window and are thinking that we can reuse it. But in the meantime, we have this little board that we tie the rope around, because there's weights at the other end, and it would fall down in there. And through time, when some of the weights have broken, the ropes have broken rather, the weights have fallen down in the window box, and I got my flashlight, and I had to look down in there every time. I've always looking for a treasure, and I haven't found one yet. The windows, you can see the bottom window is a clear glass, and then the top have the multi-panes. So what I thought I'd do is just tell you a little bit about what you might need if you ever want to work on some windows or that are similar, and they are old. So we had to be very careful with our glass, and some of the glass panes do have little breaks in them, but it hasn't been worth trying to take some of those out. So we're just leaving those. So what do we use when we got ready to do this? Well, and the whole idea behind fixing the windows is that some of them, when both of the weights had broken through time, the ropes had broken that hold the weights up, the window comes down. Well, these are very heavy windows, at those top windows. And so we had sticks, broom handles holding them up. That's why they didn't look very good. So it might be a good opportunity. But to get to the back windows, you had to take out the front windows. And usually they had to be replaced too with the ropes. So what we had was, they had us a stool, and a great stool, just to go up and come down. Wasn't too big. And some of my favorite tools were a hammer, a tack hammer. This is wonderful. I'm not technical on that, but it was what we used to help get our trim boards off and loosen up the metal strips. Then my favorite for this project has been this thing, because the where the ropes go to the windows, there's a knot and a hole, and you slide that knot in that side of the window, and then you nail it 5 or 6 or 10 times. And so before we could do what we wanted to do, we had to get those out. So this was a great way to grab those, turn it, and pull those pieces of rope and the nails out at the same time. Great one for doing, so we had to do some scraping and getting some other nails out. You just never can tell what is going to give you the best shot at getting some nails out. I had a flashlight so we could look down in the window box, where I did find some weights and scissors for cutting the rope, and then different scrapers, because we would scrape the inside of the window at the bottom where it was weathered, and then we had to find nails that would go into the rope but not be so big it would interfere with the window sliding up and down, and finishing nails to put finishing boards back up. Whenever we started out kind of slow, and all of a sudden I found out, well, we've got all these pieces, and we tried to leave them in the right place, but some of them had to be sanded, some had to be painted, and then putting them back in the right way. There were some tricks that I learned. So I got blue tape, magic marker, white paper. The things that I didn't want or couldn't write on with a black magic marker, I would take a piece and write the note on there. Like if it was the third window in the dining room and it was the top, I'd write that on there, and you say, well, that'd be easy to see. But when you get these window pieces spread out all over, tops and bottoms of the window, it gets kind of daunting, and you go, oh, that gives me a headache. Then these were the little pieces I was talking about that we used to hold up the ropes. And then if we decided we were going to cut the rope off, it wouldn't matter, but we would knot it in this. We had tried nailing it, and boy, that was hard to get it back out. So we just put a knot. He put those little grooves in there. Then we had the sashing rope, and then there's 2 weights, samples of weights that were in the windows, and they were in the larger back windows. And I found no treasures yet, so I made a note that I'm going to put in the window box that tells when we bought the house, when we repaired the windows, and I thought that'd be fun and stick it down in there. And we did go ahead and order some weights offline, and that was neat. We got exactly what we ordered, so that in case we can't find some, because at one point we couldn't find some of the weights, and it turned out that they were down in the basement, but the basement's pretty big and dirt, and so had to run around down in there with the spiders and find them. But we did. We actually found a set of multiples plus one of the big ones. Trash can. Got to have a trash can. That's a great thing. Here's an example of where I marked. Well, that's not one that I marked. I just thought I saw one. But one of the metal strips, and I would put it as the right side or the left side in the top. So that would come in handy. And that gets you to being ready to do it. And then you need a nice place to work, a nice space. So if you I'm going to stop for a minute and go show you where we worked. As I'm walking through the house, I come upon one of the windows that is drying out right now. It's been scraped. If you have a really, really old house, you probably need to wear a respirator and have a special disposal for the trash, special bags, because of the lead or whatever was in them in the olden days. This one, somebody else had redone before this window, and the glaze was pretty wide, and I wanted to get it out and get it back to normal, but this stuff was like concrete. And so after looking at the video online, there are a lot of great videos on there on working on windows. I was so impressed. It saved us so much time. But as far as trying to get this hard glaze out, it finally came down to the point of, if you have old windows and old glass, just leave them alone. And so that's what we're doing. The white places are just where we knocked off some of the paint that had come up. And we're going to be putting the first coat on the whole window and then another coat. We used oil paint over the windows, but that's an example of one of the windows. Here's an example of one of the bottom windows, and it's turned on its side, but you can see what a nice piece of glass that is. So we were very, very careful with that, and I'm sorry you see me too, but I'm usually not in this. But this is our workspace, and it's under the carport, actually. Now we set up 2 sawhorses and had a heavy piece of flooring left from putting up in the attic. And it has worked beautifully because it doesn't give, and it's easy to clean up. And so what this was, where we did our scraping and cleaning up the windows, and then this is where I did the glazing. And this was fun. I mean, it's like the sewing, you know, when you find something that is fun, you just want to keep doing it. Well, what I use is some gloves, and you don't have to use them, but it's easier just to throw those away than to have to stand there and wash your hands and wash your hands. And the glaze we started with was DAP 33 window glazing. That was the first one we had sort of seen and could get in the store. And it's a really nice white glaze that goes on really well. It takes 7 to 14 days for it to dry. And that's how things started going a little wonky for us, because we would get all these windows out, have them glazed, and they'd be sitting around waiting to dry. But then there's another kind, and this is called multi-glaze, and it's Sarco. I found it on the internet too during one of the videos, watched it. And this is a browner glaze. Works just like the other one. You take it out, you put it in your hand, you warm it up, move it around, and then you start inserting it into the window. And like I said, there's some great videos on that. And this is one of my other favorite tools for this whole job was this glaze, was what I used for the glazer. And I used my left side, I could use it to take out. But then this is the one that I used when I got ready that in to do the other part. And then finally, one of the tricks that we found is one of the guys on their set was talking about, there's a little film that's left when you use those glazes, and after it gets all dry, you'll have to come in and clean it out. But then you touch things and you mess them up. So one thing that they showed us was you can get a compound, and this one's called Easy Sand 20, but you can also use chalk dust if you know where to get it. And a nice brush, a soft brush. And we had 2 different sizes because we had large windows and panes and small ones. And what you do is, as soon as you finish doing your window and you're standing there, you take and you put this along, it's a little powder, and you take your brush and you powder the edge of your caulking and down onto the glass, and then just gently rub it back and forth on the glass, and presto, it absorbs that oil, and that you won't believe the amount of cleanup that will save you. And this is the end, And that was the first set of 3 windows that we did through this process. And we're still going in the front looking for other windows that we're going to finish. I hope you've enjoyed. This is Stephanie at Hightower Stitching.